Let's talk about the top 5 things I wish I would have known as a beginner artist. Hi, I'm Kiwi Kana, a freelance illustrator and comic artist, and welcome to or welcome back to my channel. I love making these videos about all of the mistakes I've made as an artist so that you won't have to make the same mistakes yourself, and I think we're going to be touching on some pretty big early mistakes today. I also want to thank everyone for the absolutely wonderful response to my last video about sharing your art. I'm always really happy to hear that a video was helpful and that you can all kind of relate to the experiences that I've had as an artist. Much like that video, we're going to be painting another baby dragon today, so if that sounds like fun, stay tuned and we'll get into it. As always, please feel free to leave comments sharing your thoughts or your own work below. I love hearing about everybody's art journey, and let me know in the comments how long you've been making art. Alright, let's get started with tip number 1. It's good to get out of your comfort zone, but don't stay out of your comfort zone. When I was first starting out as an artist, I was very ambitious, and I wanted to create pieces that were way outside of my skill level. I'm going to put some of the pieces that I'm talking about on the screen now from my early days of digital art, and almost all of them are unfinished and none of them look good. Like in this piece, for example, which remains unfinished, I was trying to draw this massive tree house, and the thing is, I had never even drawn a tree before, so I didn't really know how to make these shapes or render them out very well, and I certainly hadn't drawn a big building like this. And then I'm also adding in all of this detailed background and this perspective of this bridge coming out, which I didn't understand at the time, or drawing water, which I had really never done before. And trying to do all of these things at once in one piece was just a recipe for failure. It's really similar to this one here, where again, I have all of this foliage that I don't know how to render and I haven't really practiced. I'm trying to do these like crazy compositions with buildings and water and all of this, and I just didn't have the skill set for it. And I don't want to sound like I'm encouraging people not to take risks with their work, and I certainly don't think that it was a bad thing that I was trying to do these drawings at the time, but if I could go back, I would tell myself that if I want to try tackling these pieces, it's okay, absolutely do that. But it's also okay to slow down a little bit and to come back to my fundamentals. Instead of doing all of this all at once, maybe I start with rendering out a tree and kind of learning how foliage actually works before I decide to do an entire piece full of it. I would also tell myself that it's okay to come back to a much simpler drawing that I have a greater chance of succeeding with. Because here's the thing, doing all of these big drawings and feeling like I was failing at them was so incredibly discouraging, and it made me feel really burnt out with my art early on. So while it was great that I was pushing myself, including drawings that were easy and just fun that didn't cost me a lot of stress would have been really helpful for saving me from that frustration. I've said this before on my channel, but making art can really be a mind game, and so making pieces that are basically a slam dunk for you are gonna give your brain that little boost of dopamine and make you feel a lot more confident about your work, and that really can help carry you through your next difficult drawing. It's something that I do a lot now. For example, if you've seen any of my recent videos, there have been a couple of drawings I've done lately that have challenged me a little bit. They were a little more involved and definitely a bigger undertaking than I'm used to with my work. So after those, I started this dragon series as a way to boost my own morale. They don't take me too long to finish, and they're really fun, and the process feels really intuitive for me. So doing these in between my larger pieces really keeps me motivated and excited about working on my next piece. Okay, so tip number 2, don't rely on custom brushes. And by that, I mean specific texture brushes, cloud brushes, foliage brushes, grass brushes, you get the idea. Also, say brushes 5 times in a row because it's kind of a tongue twister. Anyway, I can definitely hear some people in the comments getting ready to yell at me, and fair enough, so I'm going to preface this by saying that there is absolutely nothing wrong with using custom brushes, and you can definitely get some really beautiful results using them. That said, I think early on they really hindered my growth as an artist. I remember specifically when I was trying to draw trees and foliage, I was using custom brushes and I was so confused why I wasn't getting good results. Everything looked muddy and bad, and that was because I just did not understand the fundamentals that went into painting trees. So no amount of custom brushes were going to help. Once I abandoned them and started using just a simple brush and doing studies instead, I was able to actually learn those fundamentals and start painting things that looked good. I also feel like painting everything myself gave me a lot more artistic control over what I was actually creating, which I always think is a good thing. Again, I think if you want to use custom brushes, that's totally fine. A lot of people make incredible art with them, but I do think if you find yourself using them and not getting the results that you want, it's probably time to put those custom brushes away for a while and start really practicing your mark making and your fundamentals. For me personally, I don't use anything in my work other than a general flat brush in Clip Studio and also the airbrush tool. I find that's all that I really need, and I feel like limiting myself in that way has allowed me to learn a lot more quickly. So you can take or leave this piece of advice. It was just a real struggle for me, so I thought I would share, and if you find yourself struggling with custom brushes, maybe give it a try where you just paint everything by hand and see what happens. Okay, on to tip number 3. If you think your art looks good, soon it's going to look bad. And if you think it looks bad, soon it's going to look good. I feel like some of you are probably hearing that and going, what the heck does that mean? Because it's kind of a weird way to phrase things, so let me explain. I'm sure you've heard before that as you're learning, there are increases in your artistic improvement, and then there are plateaus in your artistic improvement. This is a totally normal experience for most artists. Improvement is definitely not linear. If you don't like your work, you're probably in between these spikes of improvement. So what happens is you get stuck in this plateau where you don't think you're learning because your brain has been absorbing all of this information and it takes your hands a little while to catch up, and then something clicks and suddenly your art experiences that spike of improvement. But it also means that when your art is really good, pretty soon you're going to get adjusted to those improvements and you're going to start seeing the flaws in your work again. This doesn't mean you've become a worse artist. It just means that your brain has gotten used to your improvements. When this happened to me early on, I was really confused as to why, when I had just been feeling really good about my art, suddenly it looked bad again, and I felt a lot like I was regressing. But that definitely wasn't the case. I had just gotten used to the way that my newly improved art looked, and I was able to see all of these new flaws that I just hadn't figured out yet. So if this is happening to you, just know that you're not getting worse. This is a really normal part of the drawing process, and soon you're going to start liking your work again. Okay, now on to tip number 4. Don't worry about how long it takes you to make art. I actually have a whole video about this, but the pressure to speed up my art process caused me so much struggle as a beginner that I feel like it deserves repeating in this video too. You don't need to be making art quickly, and especially as a beginner before you're on any tight professional deadlines, speeding up your process honestly should be the least of your concerns. Getting faster is going to come naturally with time. Speed has nothing to do with how quickly you can actually produce art. It's all about how efficiently you can make decisions and how much confidence you have in those decisions. Like, if you're staring at a piece for an hour, not knowing what to do next, obviously that's going to add a lot of time. Or if you're having to paint and repaint certain areas or overwork parts of your drawing because you're just not sure how it works, that's also going to take more time. But in doing that, your brain is automatically picking up little shortcuts and methods that are going to make your process faster the next time you draw. So, just because your favorite artist can create a piece in 2 hours that would take you 10 hours, that does not mean that you need to be worried or feel bad because you can't do it in 2. Again, speed will come with time. For example, this old piece took 5 hours and this one only took 4. Okay, finally, tip number 5, you will never be 100% satisfied with your art, and that's okay. I remember when I was first starting out in my art journey, making art that looked like this or this, I said to myself multiple times, I'll be happy if I can just draw nice-looking characters, just faces that look proportionate and decent. That's it. If I can do that, I'll be satisfied. Now, I've been able to draw faces for a little while now. Sometimes I still struggle with them, but I'd say I've at least achieved the level of consistency that my beginner artist self wanted. And guess what? I am still not satisfied with my art. And sometimes I catch myself feeling frustrated that I'm not always satisfied with my work, that it seems like no matter how much I improve, it only leads to finding bigger gaps in my knowledge. There's so much to learn, and as I continue to get better, I also get better at seeing mistakes. And that's going to continue for as long as I'm making art. There's always going to be something that I struggle with, something that's not perfect, and as long as I'm setting these goals for myself where I'm saying, I'll be happy as long as I can do this thing, I'm setting myself up for failure, because the truth is, I'm not going to be happy. There's never going to be a time when my art is perfect. So now I'm trying to learn to focus on my journey. Instead of setting art goals centering around how good I want to be at a specific thing, I take pride in my ability to stick to the process, to continue to learn and grow. And that's exciting because it means that there isn't an end goal. I can keep learning and growing as an artist for honestly the rest of my life if I stick with it. I think there's something really inspiring about that. I don't ever have to feel bad about my work, even though sometimes I still do, because honestly, it's just part of the process. I definitely wish I could have gone back in time and told myself that when I was first starting out. I think that in that same vein, it's really important to be kind to yourself now by putting yourself in the perspective of your younger self. Even though I am not always happy with my art, I think if I could have seen myself in the future 5 years ago, I would be so impressed and so excited about what I'm able to do now. One thing that's really helped me to do that is redrawing old art. It helps me see just how much I've improved and how much better I am at achieving what I was trying to do back then. Anyway, those are my tips. I hope they're a little helpful. If you have any other tips that you want to share from your experience, please do. Maybe I'll pin one of the ones I think is really helpful. As I mentioned in my last video, I'll be at AwesomeCon next weekend, table E15, so if you want to stop by and say hi, please feel free. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, consider liking or even subscribing, and I hope to see you in the next video.